ladies and gentlemen. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm going to try to do this without readers. I'm Sally Wiggin, and I'm a survivor. I want to thank you all for joining us today for the Father's Day Pledge to End Gender Violence, an annual tradition in which Pittsburgh leaders demonstrate their united commitment to end domestic violence and sexual assault. Today in this plaza, and it is a glorious day, and this is such a great day to hold this here in downtown Pittsburgh, government, business, faith, nonprofit, and community leaders are pledging to take action to end domestic violence and sexual assault. And that is power in and of itself, just you being here. I am honored to be back for the 4th year in a row. I wouldn't miss this for anything. It is heartening to see all of you here today. Many of you are also repeat visitors, and a lot of familiar faces, and even more important, new faces, and lots of t-shirts speaking your truth. Like many of you, this work is important to me. You just heard why. My long involvement in the movement to end domestic violence includes my role on the Board of Directors and the Advisory Council now for the Women's Center and Shelter of Greater Pittsburgh. I am proud to join you all, members of the community, in saying no more. It's a very personal crusade for me and so many other men and women. This will be an inspiring afternoon, I promise you, as we hear from several passionate leaders, some of whom have been personally impacted by violence. After we hear those stories, we recite the pledge all together, because it's better when it is together, and then all of you are invited to step up for a public signing ceremony and commit with your signature, your John Hancock, to preventing violence. It is now my pleasure to introduce 3 really special individuals who have led violence prevention efforts in our region. Together with the Heinz Endowments, their organizations have partnered to deliver a profound and a lasting impact in our community. Here to tell you about it and the role for all of us and what role we can play, Bob Nelkin, President and CEO of United Way of Southwestern Pennsylvania, Kristy Trautmann, Executive Director of FISA Foundation, and eventually, when his schedule gets him here, Mayor Bill Peduto.
Thank you, Sally. Thank you for all the leadership that you have and the passion that you put into this, and to all of you who are here. Look, United Way has always supported the shelters. You heard Sally talk about Women's Center and Shelter. The shelters are very important. We want safe places for people to go and restore their lives and to be protected. But honestly, we can do better than that. We can actually prevent abuse from girls and women. And that's what this effort's about. United Way, the FISA Foundation, all of our partners, our intent is to have the largest prevention program in the country, and we're well on the way towards that. Father's Day Pledge is part of that. So here's my message to you. If you close your eyes and you think about one young man who you have influenced, who you are trying to influence, who you want to influence to live a life of dignity, think about that young man and how we can inspire them, that person in your life and many others, to learn to respect girls and women and to treat them with dignity. That's the purpose here. I have the person in my mind, my son, and I hope all of you are thinking of people as well. I say no more because we can inspire young men to treat girls and women with dignity and respect. Thank you very much. And now to the person who started this all, Kristy Trautmann from the FISA Foundation.
Thank you, Bob and Sally. My name is Kristy Trautmann. I'm Executive Director of the FISA Foundation, and we've been so pleased to partner with the United Way, the Heinz Endowments, and 30 nonprofit partners on Southwest PA Says No More, a regional effort to end domestic and sexual violence. Today is the 4th annual pledge event in Pittsburgh, and hold on a second.
That only goes on for 30 minutes.
Okay. This is the 4th annual pledge event in the city of Pittsburgh. But it's part of a statewide campaign of men and women standing up against domestic violence and sexual assault that's organized by the Pennsylvania Coalition Against Domestic Violence. I want to give a shout out to our many partners here today who work in the trenches on this issue every day, particularly Women's Center and Shelter of Greater Pittsburgh, Pittsburgh Action Against Rape, Crisis Center North, thank you, they deserve a hand. Center for Victims, the Hope Center, Domestic Violence Services, Blackburn Center, and programs in every county across our region. This year, we've seen unprecedented truth-telling about the pervasive harassment and violence in the lives of women and girls. The statistics have really come alive. We're beginning to talk about the fact that these crimes can happen to anybody and acknowledge that disproportionately, when we talk about victims of sexual assault and domestic violence, we're talking about young women, women of color, people with disabilities, although abuse knows no bounds. The pledge is an opportunity to really renew our commitment to believe and support survivors, to say out loud what we are about, so that the people in our lives who've experienced violence know that they can trust us and depend on us to support them. We are also, as Bob said, here to change the culture that allows this level of violence. Today, by the end of the program, you'll get a packet of materials, specific tools that you can use with the people in your lives to have some conversations about prevention. The Father's Day Pledge is really an invitation to men, specifically today, but we invite men and women to sign the pledge. We believe that while sexual assault and domestic violence are disproportionately crimes that are perpetrated by men, the majority of men respect women. The majority of men oppose gender-based violence. But for too long, the majority has been silent. So the Father's Day Pledge is about saying out loud the things that we believe as part of changing the culture. We're so proud of everyone here to take a stand. My name is Kristy Trautmann, and I say no more because I believe that prevention is possible. Thank you.
Thank you, Kristy. Boy, do you remember last year how hot it was? Isn't it nice today? Everybody, round of applause for the weather cooperating. Not that you wouldn't have been here anyway. I think we can all agree that knowing what to say to someone who may be experiencing domestic violence or sexual assault can be overwhelming. Though it may be tough, you can still be helpful. The most important thing to remember is you don't need to be an expert. You need to be a friend, and I think all of us can do that. I mentioned earlier my involvement with the Women's Center and Shelter of Greater Pittsburgh. It's my honor to introduce our next speaker, a survivor, Rhonda Fleming, from the Women's Center and Shelter of Greater Pittsburgh. Rhonda.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Kristy, for the invitation this afternoon. So I'm just going to share briefly with you a part of my story. And it begins with me telling you that my mom, she passed away when I was 18 years old. Now you have to put a pin in that for it to make sense to you later. I met this guy when I was about age 22, when he started working at the same agency where I worked. We went out one evening with a group of coworkers on a Friday evening, so you know what we were doing. And I noticed two things: the attention that he paid to me, and I noticed that he left quickly after only one drink. My impression was that he's not much of a drinker. I found out not much later that he was also in the church choir. Yes, I was impressed again. So another time, a group of us go out after work, and he offered to give me a ride home. I accepted. We laughed and chatted on the way home until I realized he wasn't driving in the direction that I lived. Instead, We ended up parked in front of what I came to know was his house. He said he had to pick something up and asked, or actually told me to come with him. By this point, I was a bit dizzy, caused by a mixture of the after-work cocktails and the confusion that I was feeling inside of mistrust and fear churning around inside my gut. Through his strong persuasion and a bit of tugging on my hand and an offer to feed me, I ended up going in his house with him. After 2 slices of unbuttered bread, he coaxed me to his bedroom amidst my many protests. I'm not sure who first coined the term date rape. However, I'm here to tell you that rape doesn't need an adjective. Rape, by any name, is rape. The next day, I was more confused than the night before. I was angry. Yeah, at him, but definitely at me. I should have known better to get in some guy's car after being out drinking. After all, I was 22 years old. I was really thrown off later that afternoon when he called. He was off that day, but I was working, and he called to check up on me, see if I was okay. Wow, that was sweet. 2 things I can say for sure that's very difficult to understand if you've never experienced intimate partner violence. Repeating the word intimate. There is an skewed trust that comes along with the beginning of that kind of relationship, which later turns into a living nightmare. And the second being the kind of fear attached to that same relationship. I stayed another 7 years after that ride home from the bar. Early on in the developing relationship, I caught a nasty cold. He lovingly brought me chicken noodle soup, NyQuil, tissues, and yes, I was impressed again. A couple days later, I returned to work. I figured I could take NyQuil and tissues and go on back to work. When I got to work, he was there that day, and he pulled me aside to protest my return, saying that I still needed to be home in bed taking care of myself. I detected a tone of authority and a hint of anger in his voice, but I waved it off. I just ignored it. Warning signs often get tangled in a web of what seems like concern for my and all of us survivors' well-being. So if you're wondering the connection to me mentioning losing my mom at age 18, this guy was the first person in my life after my loss to make me feel really cared for, really special. A connection you might not understand, but that's okay, because I just want to leave you with one thought. If you are ever in the capacity or position to listen and support someone in an intimate partner violent relationship, please do so without judgment. My name is Rhonda, and I say no more because I had to survive. Thank you.
You know what? Let's have another round of applause. It takes a lot of courage to stand up. Because we want to take away the shame that people feel that they've done something wrong. They haven't done something wrong. He did something wrong. Thank you for sharing your story, Rhonda. You're amazing. Next, we will hear from Mike McClaine, the president of Aspirant, who will continue our discussion on supporting survivors. Please welcome Mike.
Thank you, Sally. My name is Mike McClaine. I'm president of Aspirant, which is a global management consulting firm right on Pittsburgh's North Shore. We have management consulting capability, but we also happen to have an app and mobile development team called Tech Solutions. And they got involved in 2015 with the Pittsburgh Women's Center and Shelter to create an app to help prevent domestic violence. It was called Are You Safe? And it was focused on risk assessment and and helping people to get to shelters and other resources they needed to get help. Subsequent to that, we've launched an app called Bright Sky in the UK. We have an additional lethality assessment program app that we do with the Pittsburgh Police, and we continued on that process. Well, last summer, as a company, we sat down and said, what cause do we want to be involved in from a social standpoint so we can make the most impact? And based on this past involvement, the logical answer was related to domestic violence. So we started a campaign called Connection of Hope, which not only continued our app development, but also engaged over 20 business and community leaders across Pittsburgh to help with the effort. So as you can guess what might have happened once we were known to have this program going on, we started to hear from more and more people, survivors like Rhonda, others who had family members impacted. For instance, there was one man who had a young relative who was in an abusive situation. He was so desperate, didn't know how he could help get her out of that situation. There was another young lady who had a perpetrator get a hold of her phone, her iPhone, click the Share My Location app, or click the Share My Location button, and then immediately began stalking her. And unfortunately, we've experienced discussions with people who have had loved ones who were actually killed related to domestic violence. And that just has an incredible impact on us and makes us want to redouble our efforts. So this spring, we launched a new version of the Bright Sky app in the UK in May, and now on June 27th, we're launching the new Are You Safe in Pittsburgh at Nova Place on the North Shore, so you're all invited to that. You might say, what can an app do to help with domestic violence? Well, first of all, the new version of the app not only helps victims, but also friends and relatives. So you can go on there and understand, how can I get help for someone else? It has new advanced search capabilities. It has journaling, text, pictures, etc., to enable you to send off information to a secured place. It's in 3 languages. It still connects people with 911. And most important, it helps us get the word out there. So to kick this off, we have at Nova Place on the 27th at 5 o'clock, and then another session at 7 for you to come, learn more about the app, understand how you can do more to help the cause in partnership with Pittsburgh Women's Center and Shelter. If you could attend the event, wonderful. But if you can't, I would ask every single one of you to download the Are You Safe app, share it with your friends, get the word out there, because it can truly save a life. I say no more, because the problem of domestic violence is real, it's pervasive, and we can do something to make a difference.
Talking about connections and languages and the world, it is my pleasure to introduce the man who represents Pittsburgh to the world, our mayor, Bill Peduto.
Thank you, Sally. It's unfortunate we have to gather. It's unfortunate that we come together on a yearly basis, but it's absolutely critical that we do. And as somebody who gets to have a job of leading 3,500 employees, I know there's a critical responsibility to making sure that everybody has access to what they would require if they found themselves in a situation. And as somebody who reaches out to our corporate community, I ask that corporate leaders throughout this town do the same thing. Provide your employees, whether they're part of a domestic relationship or not, with the training to understand when somebody may be going through a situation to be able to help them. Provide your employees with the opportunities to understand what the signs are, and provide your employees with that opportunity to get the help that they need to be able to overcome domestic violence in all of its forms. I'm very proud to be a part, and I see Council Members Strasburger and Council President Kraus that are here, a part of a city government that has partnered with nonprofit organizations throughout this city to provide not only cutting-edge legislation, that recognizes and proactively addresses the concerns of domestic violence within our own workforce, but have been able to create policies that have been able to expand it beyond just the city. We are blessed in the past year to have created one of the country's first gender equity commissions that are looking at all of the different ways that we can provide a better workplace for women throughout the city government. But we're also very cognizant of the fact that it has to go beyond the walls of City Hall and throughout the streets of the city of Pittsburgh and beyond. I stand here today to say, I say no more, because there are those who can't. And to every man that is gathered here today, we have not only a moral obligation, but we owe it to our mothers, our grandmothers, our nieces, and our daughters to say no more as well.
And I wanted to also thank Mike for giving us some information, more information that is so important in supporting survivors. Next, we will hear from George Fleming, Allegheny Family Network, who will reiterate the importance of starting this conversation early.
Good afternoon. My name is George Fleming, and I also am a consultant for Women's Center and Shelter. And I want to give a shout out to all of our peers and colleagues. Even our CEO took time out of her day to come support what I think is one of the most vital efforts, and that is to prevent and intervene on intimate partner violence. Before I go any further, I would be remiss if I would not say that that's my sister who gave her story. And so I want you all to give my sister another hand. I never heard her story publicly, and I'm glad I didn't, because those years ago, I wasn't who I am today. And so rather than speaking about it, well, you can kind of read through the lines. My charge today is to talk to you about engagement. I've been in the human service field for more than 4 decades, and when I first started in the business, there was plenty of money for prevention. So one of the first things I want to say is that from a dollar value in, it was often asked, does prevention work? I now run battles groups, and I run them weekly, and they average 15 men. They start at ages as young as 18. We've had them as old as 77. Every time we ask this one question, and that question is, have you ever had any intervention, psychoeducation, and or any formal talks with your father in particular about how to treat young women? 90.9% of the time the answer is no. It's a staggering statistic. Number two, when we talk to young people, and we have cue cards out here to help you with that, we must be honest and candid with them, because we live in a world since the beginning of time have displayed violence as a way of life. Men, I want to say to you that in my daily work, I work with men all across Allegheny County, and we have a lot of work to do. The first thing I think we can do as men is we got to be honest about our own masculinity. And I know y'all not going to shot me down, but I'm telling you that's one of the things we need to do. Number two, we must be honest with ourselves about our view of women, our children, and even some cases our small animals. And number three, we got to really examine this issue in our culture of power and control. Abuse is a learned behavior, therefore anything that is learned can be unlearned. Before I take my seat, and I'm going to do it quickly, I want to say two other things. One is I want to thank Kristy for her efforts in supporting what I think is a very, very, very critical situation. Number two, I was really disheartened last night when I watched the news, something that I don't do as much as I used to, and I seen where a gentleman, and I'll use the term lightly, killed 6 innocent people, most of which he felt he had vengeance for that was connected to a 9-year terror reign on his ex-wife and their child. In the press conference, the ex-wife said, "I finally feel free." And I say, what a cost and what a price to pay. I say no more because my grandkids deserve better. God bless you.
Thank you so much for your passion, George. It is truly important to start this conversation with young people. Young people. Communication is key. So now, if you would please join me in welcoming Paul Mulba, who will be speaking out against abusive behaviors.
You have to forgive me, I'm a coach, so I gotta make sure you guys move around a little bit. You guys gonna be my team for today, is that okay? All right, I need y'all to stand up real quick. I got 2 seconds. Stand up real quick. Get right next to the person next to you and go back to back. Back to back, really quick. All right? Then I want you to turn around and look at them in the eye and say, "I got your back." I got your back. All right? Y'all can sit down now. Game over. Yeah.
That was awesome.
All right? I got your back. Now, I was a collegiate coach at Robert Morris University. As you know, we didn't win a lot of games, so I'm not there anymore, okay? But while I was there, we were able to pilot the first collegiate edition of Coaching Boys and the Men, which is a program that we do throughout southwestern Pennsylvania with United Way and FISA. And this important program it allowed us to have very meaningful conversations with our athletes, all right? And we still do that now with high school athletics. And one of the things that we talked about that carried over so well was the ability to be a bystander, all right? A lot of us grew up in neighborhoods where you couldn't do something down the street and your mom didn't find out. Right? There was always someone who was watching over you, right? So as we taught bystander, we taught a lot of different strategies, right? Most people don't want to get involved in situations that don't involve them, right? For whatever reason. So as we taught different strategies to teach them how to hold their teammates accountable, but also to help the overall community of the school. All right, so one of those strategies was being able to say, I can directly approach someone, right? I can talk to them about whatever the situation is, if I felt comfortable, if I knew them, right? The other situation was, if it was a group of us, then maybe we could team up together and approach the person or approach the people that were involved, right? Maybe if I was by myself and I felt afraid, I could call an authority figure, whether it's in school, whether it's a principal, whether it's a security guard, or maybe out in the street where I have to actually call the authorities, all right? And then the last strategy that we used was being able to be a distraction. Maybe I could cause a distraction or some type of alert to get the person away from the situation that they were in. And a brief example that I have of that was at a, first weekend back, for most people that, have been in college, it's a little wild, right? So, most of my players who went through this program, they were at a college party and they saw a young lady not in good enough shape to make decisions for herself, right? So they teamed up and they actually were able to talk to someone about getting her home safely and about talking to the young man who was, potentially could have done harm to her, right? So that's my story, and I say no more, because we all deserve to live in a world free from violence, and I empower you to do the same. Thank you.
You're amazing, Paul. Your words are so powerful. We will take them with us and remember. And now we're going to renew our commitment to ending violence, so please welcome the Reverend Liddy Barlow as Executive Minister of Christian Associates, and Father Ron Langwin, who is representing Bishop David Zubik. Now, they're going to lead us in a public recitation. Hold on, let me get it. It's on the back. You see this? Not your pledge that you signed, but this. It's on the other side. You should have a copy of it. It's got the No More teal logo. If you didn't get one, raise your hand and a volunteer will bring you one. And I'm going to ask Father Langwin and the Reverend Barlow to come up here and help us recite the Father's Day Pledge. I think I've got it all. Yeah. Oh, yeah, that's good.
So when Jesus taught, he often used the phrase, "You have heard it said, but I say to you." Jesus recognized the ways that preachers can twist religious teachings to do harm, and he sought to correct those misinterpretations. He wanted to present a gospel that was truly good news, teachings that build up our wholeness, our faithfulness, and our love for each other. And those of us who follow in his way can use the same preaching style to speak about gender violence. So, for instance, you have heard it said, return to your partner no matter what he's done to you and suffer his abuse in silence. But I say to you, God desires your well-being, your physical and emotional health, and your freedom. Or like this, you have heard it said, with a skirt that short and a drink in your hand, you were asking for it. But I say to you, be free from your shame, for only the perpetrator is responsible for assault. Or like this, you've heard it said that a real man is tough and never cries, and that boys will be boys, and that might makes right. But I say to you, blessed are those who weep, blessed are the gentle, blessed are the kind. The 28 church bodies that together form Christian Associates of Southwest Pennsylvania are proud to be part of the Father's Day Pledge, standing firm, and Southwest PA says no more. Together with you, our community partners, we work and pray for a day when gender violence ends. I'm Reverend Liddy Barlow, and I say no more because you have heard it said violence, but I say to you, love.
Now, if you'll please join us in saying no more to domestic violence. Together, let us take the pledge. Remember to hold up your teal card, no more flyers, as you read along. Go ahead, you started.
Great. I pledge to make my community safer by learning about domestic violence and sexual assault, modeling respect and equality in my own relationships, and speaking out against disrespectful and abusive behaviors.
I'm Father Ron Langwin, and I say no more because each of us is a unique expression of love.
Before I introduce our next speakers, I'd just like to say, and I think some of you heard it the first year we did this, and I haven't said it since, but when I experienced the domestic violence in my marriage, before I came to Pittsburgh, wasn't in Pittsburgh, the next morning I went to a payphone. We didn't have cell phones back then. I left the house and I called my mother. I was 27, and I told her what had happened. And she asked me, she had not liked him. She had told me that, but I married him anyway. And she asked me, and this goes to what you just said, Liddy. She said, do you still love him? And I said, yes, I think I do. And she said, then you have to stay with him. Mother said that back then. Hopefully our mothers don't say that anymore. Hopefully we have all learned. I am honored now to welcome Leon Hoffman, Ernst & Young, to speak about the importance of signing the pledge.
Good afternoon. What a beautiful day for us all to show our support for the No More campaign and sign the Father's Day Pledge of 2018. I hope everyone here today will join me in signing the pledge. It's a first step. However, the real power is in living the pledge and making thoughtful decisions every day to build safer communities and work environments. At EY, we asked all of our local employees to join the event today. We also asked them all to sign the pledge online. I'm pleased that I've got over 50 of our employees here today, and I thank you each for making the time today to come to the event. You can see them in the yellow shirts. Our firm values are consistent across the globe as well as here in Pittsburgh. Those values demand that our people exhibit respect, integrity, and the courage to lead. I truly believe that those values create a workplace in which everyone is treated equally. I also believe that if everybody in this society today lived with those values, we would end domestic violence. I'm sure each of you are here today for a personal reason. For me personally, I have a young daughter at home, and the thought of her ever having to experience the physical and emotional pain of gender violence is totally upsetting to me. Today, I am proud to join you along with a distinguished group of corporate, civic, and community leaders, all of which today will publicly sign the Father's Day Pledge of 2018. I say no more because all women deserve to be treated with respect and live a life free of any fear of domestic violence.
Okay, everybody. Now, thank you so much, Leon. Now he's beginning the signing ceremony. Gentlemen, I'm going to call you, ladies and gentlemen, sorry. I'm going to call out 2 names at a time. Oh, you can go, Pat, you can go. I'm going to call out 2 names at a time, sign the banner, and then proceed to the microphone and read your pledge and your Say No More pledge, and then assemble at the logo wall. So I'm going to do you 2 at a time. Leroy Ball from Coppers, Stephen Christian Michaels from Wesley Family Services.
I'm Leroy Ball, President and CEO of Coppers, and I say no more because it's time to end the senseless cycle of violence affecting our communities.
I am Steve Christian Michaels, CEO of Family Services of Western Pennsylvania and the new Wesley Family Services, where I'm the strategic officer. I say no more because violence against women and girls destroys our egalitarian society.
Sean Coleman, Chatham University, and Dan DeBone, Port Authority of Allegheny County.
Good afternoon. My name is Sean Coleman. I am the Title IX coordinator at Chatham University. I say no more because no means no. Because the absence of no does not mean yes. Because no one should ever have to be a victim of domestic violence or sexual assault. Because a future with no instances of domestic violence and sexual assault is the only future I can say yes to. I say no more because I know that accountability begins with me. And I say no more because I know I have the support of the Chatham University community behind me.
Good afternoon. My name is Dan DeBone. I'm with the Port Authority of Allegheny County, overseeing our Government and Community Relations Department. On behalf of the 2,800 Port Authority employees, as well as over 3,000 retirees, I say no more because each and every human being, regardless of race, religion, and gender, should be treated and valued with the respect, dignity, and at all times with exceptional kindness. Each and every second, each and every minute, each and every hour, and each and every day.
Jason Flowers from East End Cooperative Ministries, and Jose Garth, Planned Parenthood of Western Pennsylvania.
Hi, I'm Jason Flowers, with Director of Development for East End Cooperative Ministry, and I say two more because my two daughters and the hundreds of young girls that we support in our organization depend on it, and they depend on our leadership.
My name is Jose Garth, Sexual Health Educator and Violence Prevention Specialist at Planned Parenthood of Western Pennsylvania. And I say no more because our youth deserve lives free of violence.
Richard Harshman, Allegheny Technologies Incorporated, Chazar Kellam, the YWCA.
I'm Rich Harshman, Chairman, President, and CEO of Allegheny Technologies. I'm here to honor the memory of my mother and father and grandparents who instilled the right values. And on behalf of my wife, my daughter, my sisters, my nieces, my sons, my daughters-in-law, and all 8,700 employees of Allegheny Technologies, Inc., I'm here to say no more because everyone should be treated with dignity and respect.
Good afternoon. My name is Chaz Kellam. I'm with YWCA Greater Pittsburgh. And I say no more because everyone deserves to be safe. Thank you.
Bruce A. Kraus, Pittsburgh City Council, Frederick A. Massey Jr., Family Links.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Bruce Kraus. I serve as the City Councilman for the 3rd Council District. I'm also the President of Pittsburgh City Council. It's my honor to stand up here and say no more because time's up.
Sally, why don't you just keep it?
Go there.
Good afternoon. I'm Fred Massey, President and CEO of Family Links. I say no more because the loved ones in my life deserve to be loved and free from the trauma of abuse that seeks to trap them in hurt and shame.
Robert McCutcheon, Price Waterhouse Coopers, and William D. McClaine, Allegheny County.
I'm Bob McCutcheon, Managing Partner of PricewaterhouseCoopers here in Pittsburgh, and on behalf of the nearly 500 partners and employees of PwC, I say no more because everybody deserves to be treated with dignity and respect.
Hi, my name is Willie McClaine. I'm the Allegheny County Manager, and I say no on behalf of the 8,000 employees of Allegheny County because women and young girls deserve that respect. They actually have earned it, and they deserve to have it, and we should feel obligated to do that. I say no because of my wonderful wife, Francine. I say no because of my 88-year-old mother who raised all 6 of us. I say no more for my 3 sisters whose relationship I cherish. Thank you.
David Meadows, Carlow University, and Greg Peasley, UPMC. A big round of applause for Greg for arranging this amazing space for us.
Good afternoon, everyone.
In 1843, the Sisters of Mercy arrived here in Pittsburgh from Carlow, Ireland, with the mission to serve the poor and primarily women, the sick, and the uneducated. 86 years later, those same brave women from Ireland, after establishing numerous schools, an orphanage, and the Mercy Hospital of Pittsburgh, founded Mount Mercy College, now known as Carlow University. Central to the Sisters of Mercy, those brave women, is a belief in the inherent dignity and respect of each person. Our university focuses on these issues every day in our education and in our mission. This is why at Carlow University, what drives us is 4 simple words: we do good and we do well. I say no more because respect is universal. Thank you.
Between the years 2001 and 2012, we Americans lost 6,500 brave men and women serving in the armed forces in Iraq and Afghanistan. During those same 12 years, the number of women murdered by male partners in America, current or prior partners, was 12,000. Both of those numbers are staggering, and I don't start by saying those to diminish at all the wonderful efforts of our armed forces, but to show you the magnitude of this issue. It's also reported that during their lifetime, more than 38 million women will be victims of intimate partner violence. These numbers are staggering. As an executive at UPMC with over 60,000 women that we employ, UPMC says no more. I say no more. As a father of a daughter and as a husband, I say no more. And most importantly, I, Greg Peasley, Executive Vice President of UPMC, say no more because Jesus Christ, my Lord and Savior, says no more.
Robert Chair, North Allegheny School District, Brian Schreiber, JCC of Greater Pittsburgh.
Change occurs through awareness and education. We must give voice to those who are silent and invite others to see how their words and actions can cause great harm. Data suggests that more than half of our middle and high school girls across the country have experienced some form of sexual harassment. I'm Bob Shear, the superintendent of the North Allegheny School District, and I say no more because we need to lead by example and educate our young people on the pain caused by gender violence and sexual assault.
Good afternoon. I'm Brian Schreiber, President and CEO of the Jewish Community Center of Greater Pittsburgh. Had the pleasure of signing this pledge 4 years in a row, thanks to Kristy Trautmann, who's amazing. And I say no more because this is not a women's issue or a men's issue. It's a human issue.
And I'm going to invite the last 3 up at the same time instead of 2. Rich Schubert, Auberly, Paul Siefkin, Fred Rogers Productions, and Elio Way, Domestic Violence, Human Trafficking Division, Temple Hills, Maryland.
I'm Richard Schubert. I'm a member of the Board of Directors of Auberly. Many of you may not know Auberly, but it's a faith-based social service organization that treats family, children, and youth. And the goal at Auberly is to transform the lives of children, youth, and families. In too many circumstances, the families we treat are victims of domestic violence and sexual abuse. And at Auberly, we say no more because it will make the lives of children and family better.
Hi, I'm Paul Siefkin. I'm the president of Fred Rogers Productions. And Fred Rogers said, We live in a world in which we need to share responsibility. It's easy to say, it's not my child, not my community, not my world, not my problem. Then, there are those who see the need and respond. I consider those people my heroes, he said. And there are a lot of heroes here today, so thank you for being here. For our part, Fred Rogers Productions says no more to negative portrayals and stereotypes in media that can set the stage for abusive relationships down the road. If we have hopes for a better world for our children, we should always remember to model through our own actions and the attitudes we want them to embrace and carry forward as they grow up. I say no more because we need to share responsibility.
Paul, thank you for closing this. Speaking for Fred, it is most appropriate at this time. Right now, I would like all of our guys, our dudes, to recite this pledge, this group chant, and you guys, everybody, please join in with them. When I say go, I want you to all say together, no more domestic violence. Do I need to say 1, 2, 3? Probably. All right, 1, 2, 3. No more domestic violence. Thank you so much, everybody, for stepping up. You're adding your name and your voice to the movement to end domestic violence and sexual assault. So let's give these leaders a round of applause. They have been extraordinary. Rather than just going up and saying something simple, each one of them has spoken out with great eloquence. On behalf of FISA Foundation, the Heinz Endowments, the United Way of Southwestern Pennsylvania, I thank all of you for being part of the 3rd annual Father's Day. Actually, 4th annual, sorry about that. 4th annual Father's Day pledge. All right, here's mine. I say no more on behalf of survivors because surviving means spreading the word. Thanks very much. All of you, with all of us together, we can end domestic violence and sexual assault, and together we can. I now turn it over so you could all step up and sign the Father's Day pledge. So everybody come up, sign. Is this where they sign? I can't see. Also, I can't see. I'm going to get this freaking tear out of my eye. Everybody, come up and sign. Thank you for being here, and go forth and continue the fight and the understanding.